are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I love meat. If you're vegan or if you're vegetarian and you don't eat meat, I like you a lot because there's more meat for me. I respect your choices. I am completely fine. I was at a conference and somebody there was a vegetarian and asked for a vegetarian meal. Fine by me. You heard some giggles in the background, but nope. I think it's wonderful because I like meat. I try not to eat too much of it. Our bodies are not designed to eat a lot of meat. And our bodies are really not designed to eat processed meat. Processed meat is poison. And we really have to get that out of our diet immediately. Now, you're talking to somebody who loves deli. I live in Southern Nevada, and there's a restaurant called the Bagel Cafe. It's a little pricey, but oh my gosh. When they have Hebrew National salami, I will go to town on Hebrew National salami. It is like, for me, the best tasting salami. I understand there's a lot of Italian salami and salamis and all that, but sometimes, for me, I've always loved the Hebrew National taste. That's just me. But that's a once in a blue moon thing for me. You can't be eating processed red meat. Latest study says it could be a significant risk factor for dementia, according to a study that looked at 100,000 people over 4 decades. Processed red meat has been, for years, shown to increase the risk of cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. So, yeah, if it puts you at risk for heart disease and diabetes, no duh, it's going to also put you at risk for dementia. The study, according to The Guardian, also found that replacing processed red meat with healthier foods like nuts, beans, or tofu could help reduce the risk of dementia. Now, these findings were presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in the U.S. Now, in terms of people living with dementia globally, we're looking at it tripling to 153 million by 2050. And I think a lot of us, as we age, fear losing our cognitive decline. And when these experts looked at the health of 130,000 nurses and other healthcare workers working in the U.S., they tracked them for 43 years. These individuals provided data on their diet every 2 to 5 years, and the participants were asked how often they ate processed red meat, bacon, hot dogs, sausages, salami, and other sandwich meat. They were also asked about their consumption of nuts, legumes, peanut butter, peanuts, walnuts, other nuts, string beans, regular beans, peas, soy milk, and tofu. More than 11,000 cases of dementia ended up being identified during the follow-up. And they found that if a person consumed 2 servings of processed red meat each week, it appeared to raise the risk of cognitive decline by 14% compared to those who ate 3 servings a month. So 2 servings of processed red meat each week raised your risk of cognitive decline by 14%. Many of you are eating 2 servings of processed red meat per meal. You could just imagine what that could be doing to your system. You could be having bacon and a ham steak or some corned beef hash with your eggs for breakfast. Can't be doing that. And then at lunchtime having a burger or a hot dog, and then at dinner eating. We're doing ourselves a disservice. Lead author of the study, Dr. Yuhan Lee, an assistant professor at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, said study results have been mixed on whether there's a relationship between cognitive decline and meat consumption. So they want to look closer at that. So they studied people, they studied them over a longer period of time, and the data they got. So what do? You know, the study author said, eat tofu, okay? Eat legume. Let's have an honest conversation about that. Okay. Am I planning on eating any peas today? No. Am I planning on drinking any soy milk today? No. I'm being honest with you guys. It's easy for me to say, eat your peas and your beans and your tofu. But do I really have that in my plan today? I busted my knee. Didn't sleep well last night. I'm going to probably, I'm going to go home, maybe see some patients on telemedicine, feed the cats and dogs, do a little exercising that I could do. I'll do upper body because my knee, I think I blew my meniscus. But am I going to go to the store and get some tofu? I might eat nuts. I do have nuts at the house. I don't eat a lot of peanut butter because of the salt and the sugar. But, if you do eat, let's say you are going to choose a processed meat sandwich for peanut butter and celery sticks. The peanut butter and celery sticks might be a healthier option than a salami sandwich on white. I know, doesn't that sound good? Oh my gosh, I know. So we have trained ourselves that meat is good. We have trained ourselves that meat is filling. And it's psychological. If I had for a meal peanut butter and celery sticks, I'd probably poop better because of fiber. And I think I'd feel full. But then a few hours later, if somebody said, do you want dinner soon? What did you have for lunch? I'd be like, wait a second, I just had a snack for lunch. I wouldn't think of it comprising a whole meal. Maybe we need to get the idea of the meal out of our heads, where you sit down and, okay, well, it's mealtime, so I guess I got to put food on my plate and eat. How many times have you really not been hungry at mealtime? My husband doesn't like it when I will eat before dinner. If I'm hungry, I will get something to eat. And I will eat a little something. And he's like, no, I want to eat dinner with you. I want us to eat it. But then I notice I eat a much smaller dinner. For me, it works to have smaller meals. And I don't want to be hungry and it going in my mind. I would rather eat a little bit, get rid of those hunger pains. Maybe I'll take some chicken breast or I'll throw some broccoli in my mouth or whatever. And then at mealtime, I could then eat less. Maybe we just need to, I like the idea of the 10, 2, 6, and the 10, how did I forgot what I told you guys to do. Look at that. See, this is why I got to lay off the salami. 1-877, oh yeah, make your lunch 10 and 2 rather than one big lunch at noon. You'll feel more full before your 6 p.m. dinner. 1-877-Daliah.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So many of you have asked how to make your dog a service dog. You can't find a kennel. You don't have anybody to watch your pets when you travel. So at the start of this summer, and I get this every Christmas and Thanksgiving, how can I get a letter saying I need the dog to come on the plane with me and call it a service dog? Now, I love my dog. To me, she is my best buddy. Is she really qualified to be a service dog? Probably not. You know, she's not the smartest animal in my house. But you need to be aware that there is a process. It's not an exact process. There's no mandate, national mandate, that your dog gets trained by a specific certifier or be certified. And in fact, I heard that it's illegal under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, to ask somebody to show certification for their service dog. So the rules have been very loose. The problem is airlines are struggling, and they are caught between a rock and a hard place. They don't want to get sued again for a violation against the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, denying you and your dog on the plane. But they also don't want to get sued if that dog spreads rabies. So there's some new rules that USA Today has clarified for us. They said the CDC announced in May that beginning August 1, dog owners must complete a new form, and all dogs entering the U.S. must be over 6 months old, have a microchip, and appear healthy upon arrival. This would include also on planes. They said additional restrictions and requirements apply depending on where the dog was vaccinated. If the dog has recently been in one of more than 100 countries on their list identified as high risk for rabies, the dog might have had to pass a blood test or be forced to quarantine for 28 days at a CDC registered facility, the cost of which you would have to incur, according to the CDC website. And so the CDC said that announcing the changes, that the new regulations build on lessons learned during the COVID-19 pandemic when the importation of dogs from countries with high-risk rabies was temporarily suspended. Now, this doesn't mean, I know there's a lot of confusion, this does not mean you could travel with your service puppy. All right, but there are rules that might change with your airline as it pertains to shipping an animal, bringing an animal in and out of the country. And it looks like right now a lot of that has to surround rabies. I don't think dogs are vaccinated for rabies until they're 14 weeks. So a lot of puppies aren't necessarily vaccinated, and puppies can still carry rabies. But airlines will have rules on what to do if you're going to bring a pet. Now, how do you make your dog a service dog? Well, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, all right, state, local governments, businesses, nonprofit organizations that are open to the public have to allow service animals to accompany you if you have a disability. A service animal is defined as a dog or an animal that has been individually trained to do work or perform tasks with people with disabilities. This could help somebody who has blindness, in a wheelchair, deaf, post-traumatic stress disorder. So where these assistance animals started is you would have somebody who was blind, and they would use the dog to help guide them. You know, so like there's the street, the dog would stop, and these very highly trained animals, which animals can be trained. I mean, my dog maybe not, but the average dog can do really, really well in terms of training for this. But now we have expanded with the ADA many disabilities that people feel they will need their service. If you have fear of flying, you might be comforted with the fact that you have the dog. You know, I can handle flying. I don't like leaving the dog in a place where I know the dog isn't happy. So I could always make a case, well, my dog's not going to be happy, but my dog's not going to be happy on a plane either. I brought my cats on a plane, and they were just They didn't want to be on the floor of the plane. They wanted to be on my lap. And then they had to go pee-pee, and I had to get a potty box. So it was a mess. So a service animal is defined as an animal that has been trained to work or perform the tasks. Under the ADA, you cannot bias against somebody who has a service animal. However, the service animals have to be under control. They have to be under the control of the handler. Service animals need to be harnessed. They need to be leashed or tethered. Unless the individual's disability prevents the devices or the devices are interfering with their safe, effective performance. But whoever is manning that dog or whoever is, I guess, training that dog or using that dog has to have that dog in control. If there is a dog out of control that could pose a risk to others, a business location can protect others. They say there are exclusions. They say allergies and fear of dogs are not reasons to deny access or refusing service. So we cannot necessarily go up and say, look, you and your animal have to go unless the dog's out of control or the dog is defecating, not housebroken, because excrement can be a public health hazard. If you do have, let's say, a service animal and the airline says you need to go or a restaurant says you need to go, they have to offer you accommodations. They cannot prevent your service. That's against the ADA. They can actually be very liable. So Forbes talks about the different acts and what type of service dogs that are there. If you have diabetes, if you have multiple sclerosis, if you have cancer, PTSD, attention deficit. So there are a lot of disabilities that will allow you to have a service dog or a guide dog. And some of these dogs that do really well are boxers, Great Danes, Border Collies, Bernese Mountain Dogs, Pomeranians, Portuguese water dogs. I have a Bichon, but the ADA does not restrict the dog type. So if you have a German Shepherd, that dog can serve as a service animal. There is training to make your dog a service dog, right? They say to qualify, your dog has to have the characteristics needed to become a service dog, meaning the dog is healthy and able to guide you. And you have to have a disability by definition with the ADA. Your dog will need to go extensive temperament testing and training to do that. But on the flip side, nobody is asking for proof of this training. All right. I would say right now, if you don't have a well-behaved or well-mannered dog, don't do that. I understand a lot of people are using it for other reasons but if you really, really are looking for a service animal, get them trained, get them certified. There are dog trainers that could teach the dog. You might not even realize what the dog could do to help you if you have a panic attack or if you have anxiety or nightmares or things like that. And so it's really worth your time. I'm not speaking to the audience who just wants to bring their pet on a plane because they can't find a kennel. I'm talking to people who really need a service dog. And there are service dog trainers. There's a public access certification test, the PACT. Even though ADA doesn't require documentation or proof that there's been certification or training or license, but there are resources. If your dog does undergo PACT, it'll look at your dog being able to cross a parking lot, halt for traffic, enter a public space without losing control of a dog or being triggered by another dog. It could sit still, lay down. There was I think it was a Great Dane that was on the plane when I was going to Nashville a few weeks ago. Huge dog. And as everybody is walking by the bulkhead seat where the dog is sitting, like, oh, hi, puppy, hi, puppy. The dog is like looking like, don't talk to me. Why are you talking to me? Leave me alone. And I immediately recognized the dog doesn't necessarily need that. Everybody goes to a service dog and goes, oh, coo. No, I think we also need to kind of teach the population that dog has a job to do. So don't try and test it. Don't try to tempt it. Go, can I pet your dog? Can I do this? The dog is trained to do a job. Let that dog do that. But oh my God, that Great Dane was just gorgeous. But the look he gave me, like, I don't really want to talk to you. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to you. You look like a border collie yourself. I'm like, yeah, I do. It's fine. I'll leave you alone. You do your thing. You have a job to do. They say state and local governments do offer voluntary registration. So if you feel like you need that registration, you could do it. If you have an animal that pees up, let's say the carpet or something in an apartment, apartments are allowed to charge you for service animal damage. They can. What they can't do is deny you under the ADA access to certain things if you have a service animal. So I think it's definitely worth looking at if you do have a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's a lot of protections, but try and get the dog trained. Don't just paste the label or the leash on your dog saying it's a service animal, because they're not going to qualify if they, and they might cause a ruckus if they aren't trained. 1-877-Daliah. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So if I was in the dating pool now and I wasn't married and I was in my 20s or 30s and single, my middle name would probably be Swipe Left. I just don't think a lot of people would go for somebody like me. And my dating history was a lot more than I would have expected, but I did struggle. And it wasn't a very attractive feature for me to be wanting to be a doctor, wanting to have a career. Now, being that was in the 90s, so my dating days were in the 90s, we have progressed where we do want people to, our workforce, we want it to be 50-50 men and women. We want to allow anybody, despite their gender, to be able to pursue a career. But some of the reality that is being elicited in some of these studies is showing that many men still are not preferring career-minded women. Now, before everybody starts calling them names, let's just kind of look at what's happening here, right? Let's, from a practicality standpoint, and see what could be going on, because that would be an easier way to address it, okay? And so, first and foremost, anybody who's a homemaker, God bless you. If you have a homemaker, somebody who wants to make their focus the kids and the family, it's pretty admirable. So before everybody panics, and thinks these people are misogynist and all that, understand that we are also wanting to ensure that the idea of somebody being a homemaker is one of the most important jobs out there. And I think we're all in agreement to that. And so when you hear that somebody wants to be a homemaker, or you hear somebody loves the fact that their family has one of us, it's not an insult. Okay, as somebody being a homemaker, that's one of the greatest jobs out there, and one of the best jobs out there. So God bless. So if you do have somebody who recognizes that and says, look, to all those homemakers out there, God bless you. You don't get the appreciation you deserve. Now, we should take a moment to make sure they are getting appreciated. Now, you do have some individuals that feel challenged by, I want to be the breadwinner. And if there is a woman I'm dating and she ends up making more money than me, I couldn't live with that. Now, I'm sure, people like that will be, people are already yelling names to the radio, for people who are like that. And I'm not defending them by any means. All right? There are some people whose masculinity is challenged. But I have to admit, I could never date somebody shorter than me. I have no problem with short men. I had crushes on, I think Michael J. Fox might be shorter than me. Biggest crush on him. But I didn't feel like when I dated anybody younger than me that for some reason, I just wanted them taller than me. Also older. I don't do well with younger men. I don't want to date a younger guy. I like dating older. My husband was 2 years older. He was taller than me. For some reason, the chemistry worked. And being honest about that is kind of important. If you have a friend out there or a family member who says, look, it's going to turn me off. I'm not going, be honest. I don't want you to fake it. Say, yeah, you could have your career. And then all of a sudden you get married and saying, sorry, I don't want this. I'd rather you be honest up front. So we have to be very careful starting to criticize these men and how they feel, because I would rather we have honest conversations. Okay? Why? If somebody told me I really want a woman as a homemaker as my wife, why? Because I don't like what happens in daycare. I want to know somebody is there with the children. Now, I don't want, and they may have misconceptions about daycare. My kids went to daycare, and it was, luckily my husband was supportive, but would it have been more ideal if I took care of the kids in daycare? Probably not. I think the daycare did a better job. Yeah. But, obviously, if that's a concern somebody has, it's a valid concern. Doesn't mean they have to force their partner to live a life they don't want to live, but let them talk about that. That you might want to talk about it before you guys get together and undergo any long-term relationship issues if that's not going to be compatible. What if they are concerned that they have friends where the spouse cheated? And and I think there's a lot of men out there that are very nervous about their woman being among other men. They feel a duty to protect them, and they can't protect them when they're out there in the wild and getting hit on or possibly getting assaulted or getting attacked on their way to work, and so you do have some men that may instinctively want to be more protective of their woman or their children. They'd rather know the kids are safe. They're either in school or home, but not necessarily driving here, rush hour, being dropped off at daycare, dropped off here, grandma running around. And so, we have to always ask and understand, what exactly is it? Is it that some men are narcissistic and they want the focus on them? See, I don't want my husband waiting all day for me. If I come home, I'm tired. Okay, I'm going to want to take a hot shower. I'm going to want to take off the bra. I'm going to want to eat, catch up on and I want to talk about my day, but I don't want somebody panting and waiting for me to arrive. I already got that with the dogs and the cats. But there are some people out there that want that. They want the spouse to be there waiting for them. Here's your food. Here's your roach. Here's your this. Here's your drink. But they're going to have a tough time finding somebody who wants to do that. I support those of us that have wanted to have a career. And by the way, you have a lot of individuals that want women who work. We're actually seeing some of the opposite. I am meeting a lot of individuals who don't really want to have a career. They want to be a homemaker, but the people they're dating are like, well, we're going to need two incomes. You're telling me you're not going to work? So it's different strokes for different folks. And I think we really need to have more studies looking at what it is that makes people tick. Does the average single male out there want somebody who's going to have a career, feel fulfilled, be able to share expenses, bring in money, share decisions? Or do they want somebody that's going to take care of the kids, be a homemaker? I don't know. A lot of people are afraid to say that. They think they're going to get canceled. They think I'd really like to know. Because you have a lot of people saying, I can't get a date. We spoke earlier about how people aren't getting jobs because the software is not picking up or they're filtering them out before a human can even look at their application. Well, there might be something with your dating profile that isn't even giving you that chance. You know, I had some issue with my husband's in-laws because I had a career, and they were very, very concerned that my focus would be off of my husband, and especially with a career in medicine. Yeah, medicine came, the patients came first. I vowed they wouldn't, but they did. That's just what happens. That's your work ethic. And so I worked late. I didn't come home until I finished calling all the patients. I had to make sure all the referrals were done and everything was done if my staff didn't do their part. And it was very consuming. Now I have more time for the family. And so I can understand all sides. I get that. But you being, in the dating pool, you should never sacrifice something that you want. If you want a career, then you have that career. If you feel like you sacrificed it for that spouse, the resentment is going to come. But if you feel like you want to be there for the kids, you want to be a homemaker, you don't want to miss your kids growing up and transfer and pass the baton, pass the kids to other people, because I hated that part. I love my career, but I hated saying goodbye to my kids every morning. I couldn't stand that. We should have some very honest conversations about how to have the best of both worlds, how to be there to raise your children, but also have a career. But it's fascinating to see what people think, and I think we need to allow an open, safe arena to talk about that. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I am not very excited about the Kamala Harris VP, the contender, or her vice president pick. I know there's been a lot of buildup and everybody's getting very excited. I think Kamala Harris has a lot of damage control that she needs to do, especially with her rhetoric on Israel and fracking and migrant medical benefits when our veterans are struggling. So I understand that there's a lot of focus on her picking her vice presidential candidate, which she needs to do. I just think she needs to do a lot of damage control because her history and her background and prior quotes are not winning her a lot of voters. Although there is a huge push. I think they had something called like White Men for Kamala that raised $4 million and things like that. I mean, the Democrats are going to do their best. And they had to replace Biden. It was so obvious. And people want the Democrats to just roll over and, get spanked this election and learn their lesson and come back in 2028. But no. Democratic Party, just like the Republican Party, wants to still continue to thrive and do well. And so they think Kamala Harris is bringing the life necessary. And she has youth on her side. I think she's in her 50s. And so that's, I know. But they think she's going to attract the younger vote. They think she's going to attract women, becoming the first female president. I never thought it was going to be her. I always thought it would be somebody who was a lot more, qualified and had, I guess a better platform. But her VP pick is going to be crucial. She's going to be hitting a lot of the swing states. She's going to be coming to Nevada, coming to Pennsylvania. And so many of us think her best bet would probably be Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, who is fairly popular. Also can help her with some of the concern that many of the Jewish Democrats have had with her politics and her stance with Israel and the Hamas attack and the massacre that killed thousands and still Americans are still being held captive in Gaza. So I wouldn't be surprised if she does pick Shapiro, but we need somebody who can offset the very progressive and extreme views she's had. And in her defense, okay, and I know there's not a lot of people that want me to defend her, but in her defense, she was never going to be able to overshadow Biden as vice president. Vice presidents are given certain roles or certain titles as ceremonial. Not if she did go to the border and say, well, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to clean it up. I'll be there day one. Anything the Border Patrol agents need, I'm going to come back with a list and make Biden do it. That was never going to happen. It's just we're learning more and more that she would have never done that anyway. I mean, she could do it now. The Biden's not really in charge. We don't even know who's currently running the country. So she could go to the border now. But other names in the mix for her she may choose is Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. I don't know if Pete Buttigieg would be a good choice. I think he's very likable. He's young. But the transportation department has been a cluster and a seventh. All the issues going on with Boeing and the FAA and the train derailments. And even if somebody said, well, he inherited a mess, he's been the transportation secretary now for 3 years, 3.5 years. There's a lot that could have been fixed, and we're still struggling. Software glitches, issues. So I don't know if he's going to bring a lot of that drama to the campaign trail if, as people are pointing out, well, wait a second here. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Josh Shapiro. I think it's ridiculous that people think choosing a Jew or a Catholic is going to all of a sudden win over voters. Jews aren't Democrat. Catholics aren't Republican. We have Democratic Catholics. We have Republican Jews. I think when the media and when the political parties want to stereotype voters, it could really bounce back and it could boomerang. I wouldn't recommend that. Didn't Biden say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black? Or he said so, that was really insulting. Okay? There are many black voters who are conservative, who think what's going on in this country is ridiculous. And so they're not voting because of the color of their skin. They're voting because of what they think is right. And so I don't think that these demographics are doing either political party a service in terms of highlighting which demographic, if you're this, you should be voting here. That's just not right. When you see the Republican support for Israel, you're finding it harder and harder to find Jews that are aligning with the Democrats, especially if they're not supporting the efforts to get our hostages home and to stop terror and to stop Hamas. Mind you, we don't want any casualties. Nobody wants any casualties, and nobody wants any innocent civilians or any sort of humanitarian crises happening. But we had a terror attack that not only killed Israelis, but killed people of all countries, including Americans. We have Americans hostage. I think bipartisanly we could agree on what needs to be done and how we should support our biggest ally in the Middle East. So the idea of, okay, well, Governor Shapiro will help get Democrats the Jewish vote, it's a ridiculous statement. And the media is making it. So what Vice President Harris needs to do is pick somebody who, one, has a much better track record than she does, two, can appeal to those who are non-extreme and can show that, look, if they end up later becoming president, I don't know. Right now it's all about backing up what Biden did and then backing up what Kamala wants. So we'll see what happens. Right now, Kamala is on overdrive to get the message out, to get, originally her rallies didn't have a lot of people. And now, again, she just needs the Democrats to rally behind her. And once Obama finally said, okay, we're going to endorse this, she's moving on. Do I think Trump debate her? Absolutely. But I agree with him saying let's wait until she's nominated first. She technically is not the nominee. He will debate whoever is going to be the Democratic nominee. Obviously, we saw what happened when he debated Biden. It'll be very interesting to see a Trump-Kamala debate. But it's a very nerve-wracking time, I think, for all parties. And I just can't believe we have candidates that are so far apart on what needs to be done. A secure border should be a no-brainer. And we have one saying, yeah, the border's been secure and it's good. And then we have the other side going, we have rapists coming in, we have criminals coming in, and we can't take care of the innocent migrants because we just don't have enough resources. How are both sides not on the same page? Isn't it obvious what's going on down there? So, for those of you kind of looking at all this going, I really want to break from politics, I don't blame you. I think I need one. I just don't see, I just don't see, a Biden extension presidency being good for America. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.